So an extension of tables are pivot tables. And pivot tables use tables to be able to quickly slice and dice the data on more than one dimension. 2 dimensions, you can add a filter, add multiple dimensions, and it produces a table where it quickly cuts the data. So everything that we've done up to this point, this COUNTIF function, these average, these lookups and these matches, those are great, and you will probably use those. But if you've got something that you're doing on a regular basis that you want to quickly generate reports, learning how to generate tables and then pivot tables are great. Now, you don't have to build a pivot table on a table, but the advantage of building a pivot table on a table is that anytime the table is updated, you don't have to go grab a new data set for your pivot table. It will automatically update it. And let me start with showing you what that is. So in the elect marked worksheet, here's some data. Here's some credit card transaction data where we have the date, we have the day, some demographic information. Ultimately, we got the items ordered, the total amount spent, and the single most expensive item. So first I'm going to do is create a table. So I'm going to put my cursor over in this and go under Insert and build a table. And I'm going to, that's it. And I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this to something else, maybe elect mark. Anything you want, but I've got that. Now if I build a pivot table on this, so I'm going to go under now Insert and build a pivot table. Well, I'm going to reference my elect mark table, and I'm going to let it generate a new worksheet. So look what happens. These are all of the fields: date, day, time. Date, day, time, all the way down to high item. High item is the bottom one. And what you can do is that this gets built based on what you do on this side. So if I drop region into rows just like that, I know that there's 4 regions. I didn't have to know what those regions were up front. And if I drop region into values, because what this is going to do is give me the guts of the table, the measure that I'm interested. If you drop in categorical data or text data, all it can do is count, like a COUNTIF. If you drop in a number, the default is that it will sum. So look at the difference in this. I'm going to drop region, and remember, region is a text. It's categorical, so all it can do is count. If I drop this into this world, it counts based on this cut of data, region. And so you can see that I have 71 transactions in the Midwest, all the way down to 121 in the West. If I don't drop in region, actually I'm going to leave that. Now I'm going to pull in total cost. Total cost. And I drop this also into this measure or this values. Look what it does. The default is that it sums. So I've got Midwest, there were 71 transactions, and there was a total of $9,600 or so dollars purchased from the Midwest. Now, the default is sum. I could go change this sum to anything I want. Value field settings, so I hit this drop down arrow, value field settings. The default is sum because that's what it does to numbers, but I could convert it to count and I'll get the identical numbers I got there. But I can also look at the average purchase. Again, you can drop any things. What makes this really powerful is that now you can start cutting the data based on more than one dimension. So rather than just region, I can leave that, but I can drop card type here. So now I've got card type, elect mark, and other. So now I've got my count, dollar amount there. I could drop it there, or I can make it a subcategory of region. So Midwest, here's my elect mark and other. It really depends on how you want to draw it. Once I have that done, I can always go get a pivot chart. So look what happens when I put my cursor in there. I get my pivot table tools. When my cursor goes off of it, it goes away. But I can go under Analyze Pivot Chart and get a picture of everything I want. So this picture will change based on what this data set is. So if I put card type back over there, it'll change. So this is where you need to be able to try different things to see what makes more sense to you. Don't overload a graph or a table and make it too complicated for people. I would rather have more than one. Yeah, right there. So this region, if I hit that arrow, I don't have, if I just want to look at south, I mean just look at everything or everything but south, or I could turn everything off and just look at south. I could do that. Select everything. I can add slicers like what we talked about before. I can add slicers like what we talked about before. Under the Analyze part, I can insert a slicer and I can slice. And I don't even have to slice. What's nice about the slicers, I don't have to slice by anything in this world. I can actually maybe add a gender slice. And even though gender is not one of the cuts, I could just look at guys or just girls. Now, the other thing is that right now there's a total. Let's simplify this a little bit. And let's turn off all the filters. So there's my 400 records. This data set, this table has 400 records. The first row is a label. But if I would add another one, if I would have 626 and add this and then be able to put a new data, which I don't know what day that was. I'll put Saturday afternoon from the west, elect mart. So if I add that to the table, if I go back over here and then in this pivot table, if I right click and refresh, you see that the transaction is automatically updated. So I don't have to go, once you're referencing a table, if that table updates, all you have to do in your pivot table is right click and refresh, and it will automatically know that that table is expanded. Same thing on the number of fields. If I add another field, and we could say the ratio of the high item divided by the total cost. I'm going to take this divided by this and then show these as a percent. That's a new field, so if I refresh my pivot table, you can see that that now is something I can slice against. I can include it. So pivot tables are really powerful, really fast way to cut data. You build up-to-date graphs. So this, you can give people access to pivot tables and they can do their own analysis, their own data cutting, to come up with summary results. You can build canned reports. If there's a regular report that you want to generate on a regular basis, this is a great way to do it, or to use pivot tables. Thanks.